What's going on, everybody? This is Chris Classic dropping a couch vlog. I hope you guys are having a wonderful day. If nobody tells you today, remember that God loves you, Christ loves you, got the Holy Spirit within us to be on one accord. That's true love, to heal, to help, to strengthen others as well. God is so good. Make sure you subscribe to this channel, the Take It Home podcast, where I talk about professional wrestling topics. I interview wrestlers and I also put my matches up as Classic Alpha. I got some matches coming up in 2 weeks. I'm very excited for. I can't wait to show you guys the clips. Also subscribe to my second YouTube channel, C3 Ultimate Wrestling. That is me and my wife's professional wrestling company. We have our matches from our previous shows from 5 years ago and even to now, where we'll have our next show a little around the corner, April 20th, called Steal the Show. Tickets are $5 off on Eventbrite. If you're in the Northwestern Indiana, the Northwestern region, Midwest, anywhere you want to see some great wrestling, come out and see us. Some great wrestlers and talent. I just got through watching CM Punk's segment on Ariel's show, the MMA Hour. This is my first time actually watching the show. I've seen clips before, but to actually watch a whole segment. Now, I didn't know that this man show is 5 to 6 hours and he has multiple guests. So it was I saw some of it, I left, and then when I went back, it was still going on. So low-key was a hassle to try to find exactly where I left off because it was going live while I was looking at the CM Punk part. Few takeaways. CM Punk tried his best to keep what we do sacred for the most part, but knowing how times and wrestling has changed, he did let some stuff out, but I do commend him for saying he didn't want to pull the curtain back too much. As far as Ariel's style of interviewing, I know some guys do that. I don't like that when you have to say, I don't want to be disrespectful when I ask about something to do with the locker room, aka something that fans or interviewers shouldn't ask, but they're going to ask anyway. For the most part, Punk answered it to the best way he could, and he also said he doesn't like certain things. So this is why I don't like certain people interviewing wrestlers. I don't think Ariel was egregious with it, but very interesting. I'm going to give you guys a couple takeaways. I'm not going to cut up clips because, like I said, the video was long. I don't want to keep doing. I don't want to do all day with this. I want to enjoy the rest of my off day from work. Basically, he said he went to WWE. He could have went as soon as he left AEW because he never had a no-compete clause in his contract as far as AEW. So if he got let go Sunday, he could have showed up to Raw Monday with no contractual obligations to AEW. And that's probably on his design on how he wanted the contracts. Because even then, I said before he signed to AEW, he was on speaking terms with WWE, being amongst a lot of WWE superstars. They had a show on Fox, but then it got canceled because of COVID. He also said that a lot of the stuff that he was about to talk about is not under an NDA. So a lot of people was under the impression that he couldn't really say much because of the NDA, but the NDA was only for the brawl out situation. So going into that, he said a lot. I think he said a lot that I've said and many other people have said already.
You gotta step on your lips. April Fools!
Okay, Mama, thank you. But that's my baby. But going back into the situation, he did say he could have went to WWE as quick as possible, and he said Nick Khan was he wished he would have known that because he said Nick has been adamant on trying to bring him back to WWE, so they were very happy. So as far as him showing up to Survivor Series, they wanted him by Royal Rumble, but he said, hey, he can do it now in Chicago, and that's how it happened, and it was a very big moment. So that was how he came back and he returned. He also talked about how things has changed and he appreciate that. He was 10 years ago, he wouldn't like to do certain things, but now he loves it as being older. It's a good thing of maturing, you know what I'm saying? So that was dope. He also talked about, I'm not going to sit here and try to talk about certain every detail. I think you should probably look at the video, but I will talk about like some of the main points that I took away from it. Also, he talked about the situation in AEW. Like he was saying that like one time in Chicago, WWE was in Chicago, and he went there and was backstage talking to people. And then eventually they told him he had to go. But then he said that AEW, a lot of the people in AEW said that like he was a traitor. How dare he go to the I guess the competition to talk to friends? He said he was just talking to friends and people were upset about the situation. So this is what I'm saying about the position that Ricky Starks is in AEW. You could tell that they were punishing him when he did show up to Raw with Cody Rhodes about a year ago. And I know he was the champ with Big Bill, but no disrespect, those titles, it's not that prestigious because a lot of the people who have won it were not even solidified tag teams. FTR was the best team, and Starks and Big Bill, they won against the team that dang near they treated as unbeatable in like 5 minutes. But going back into that, that just kind of shows you just how petty it is. And I've talked about how some of the things have been petty with AEW. WWE does petty things too, but still. When he talked about his time in AEW, he said basically he did want to help. And that's a big thing in wrestling. Like a lot of people just want championships and stuff like that. And I do think he is a little self-centered, honestly, with certain things. But I also do think that he did try to help the company the best way he could. But then he said like a lot of people felt a certain way talking about the Elite. Ariel asked him, and he said it was about the Elite. They treated him a certain way. He talked about how Hangman changed the promo where he brought up that he's the reason why Colt Cabana got fired, even though Colt Cabana wasn't fired. Colt Cabana was in ROH. So it's like, how cool are you with Colt Cabana if you say he got fired when he really wasn't fired? And my thing is, you don't be mad. You shouldn't be mad at CM Punk for that. Be mad at Tony Khan for making that decision. If you wanted CM Punk to be comfortable, then you be mad at Tony. What you don't do is you don't get mad at the person that the stuff was changed for. You should be more mad at Tony for doing that. Going back into that, he did say like he talked about the situation with Jack Perry. He was saying that everybody said no. Like this stuff is like common knowledge at this point about certain things about the glass thing. He was saying that Jack Perry wanted to hit a rental car and bust out the glass. Now I didn't know that part, and Perry wanted to bring the rental car back to the rental spot with no window. Sir, y'all not gonna ever be able to drive whatever rental company ever. Like, you could have won if the spot was gonna happen. They could have used a rinky dink car that they could scrap or something like that. You have fans that probably would get their car up so some wrestlers could mess it up. But a rental car, so he talked about that situation. Then he was just saying like Jack Perry was like very snobby about the situation. It was like very upset and had an attitude. And Punk said, he was like that before. So you could tell he had like a little humility with it. Now I'm gonna say this, as much as I'm saying he was humble with it, CM Punk knows how to talk to people and talk his way out of paper bag. But still, I do think for the most part what he was saying was genuine. Then he even talked about the situation at All In. I believe it was All In. And then he said the real glass thing. And then he talked to Perry before he went out. He talked to him about the certain situation. And he was like, Punk said when he started talking mess, he was like, I didn't punch him. I just choked him a little bit. I choked him a little bit, like yeah, like, I didn't hurt him, but I choked him. I cut his air supply off. You know what I'm saying? Oh, that was funny. But he was saying like he would tell Tony to handle the situation before he do, like situations with Hangman Page, situation with Jack Perry, and it was like Tony, he just like never would. So he said that Tony is a nice guy, but he said he was basically a bad businessman or a bad boss. And this is stuff that I've been saying for the longest. Like, you don't even, excluding Punk, if Punk was never in the situation from AEW, if you look at some of my old videos, you would see what I was saying about how Tony handles situations. I don't think that Tony likes to deal with confrontation. You know, the situation with Sammy and Eddie, situation with Sammy and Andrade, situation even with Punk and Jungle Boy, and then I believe Jungle Boy and one of the people from the Acclaimed, I want to say it was Max Caster. Small things like have been like situations. It's been situations where people air their grievances out or they want to fight somebody, and Tony doesn't like to handle the situation. You know, Punk even said that they're not interested in making money and selling tickets and stuff like that. He says he doesn't know what they want to do. These are things that's common knowledge now. Like this is stuff people literally say when CM Punk said he hated that the arenas was empty sometimes or quarter empty. He hated that, and that's just the business mind that you have. Like that's crazy. Like this is stuff that we've talked about, and people just got to get out of the infatuation stage of of AEW. You wanted to grow, one, you could buy tickets, you could buy merch, you could do things, you could show up, but then also the business itself, AEW should do things to attract more of an audience. And even CM Punk said that as well, saying that a lot of people, it's a niche audience. And he broke down the indie mind and the national mind. And the problem is with AEW is that AEW wants to be so indie-rific when you cannot, it does not translate to great ratings and cash flow in the national level. People do want to see stories, i.e. Cody Rhodes, i.e. Bloodline, i.e. Bailey and Io Sky, things like that, Rhea Ripley's rise. People want to see stories more than anything, and I keep telling people that. And I made a video about wrestling is not just about wrestling. Like there's things that you have to do. So, he also talked about he also talked about he wanted to leave basically with the situation with the all out and everything like that. And Tony was like, I don't want you to leave. You don't need to leave. I'm going to try to keep you. And that's how Collision happened. Now, Collision, it was supposed to be a separation between people Punk wanted to have on his show, and then Dynamite was the other show. And he wanted it to be a certain way. Now, he didn't want this. Remind you, he wanted to stay. He wanted to go home. And Tony tried everything to keep him. And then Collision was actually pretty good from what I seen. A lot of people loved Collision dang near more than Dynamite. It just was not getting the ratings it rightfully deserved because Dynamite was the flagship show. And then Punk said he didn't want certain people to come to Collision. So people like the Elite would try to show up and come to the show. And Punk was like, no, it's not going to do this and it's not going to do that. So he didn't say that a lot of people in wrestling was targeting him. He was saying the certain group was targeting him and was trying to give him a hard time because they didn't like that. And CM Punk was drawing a lot of money and they didn't like that neither. So that was the thing. And then the situation with Jack Perry, he said Perry was in Collision and he wasn't even supposed to be there. And then that's how they had the confrontation about the glass situation. So he also talked about the bad business practice of when they went to London, and he said there was nobody to pick him up from the airport and he had to basically take the train to go to the area because nobody was there to pick him up, and people was taking pictures and stuff like that with him and being fans. Then he was saying that he had to find a way to get to the venue. It's not good on the business. It's not good on AEW. To me, that would have just solidified to me that you don't care about me. And then they said that other people who are cool with the Elite allegedly were responsible for his travel fares. They should get fired and they should get sued at the same time because this is another country. People's security is very important. You have to make sure that people are taken care of if you like them or not. And a lot of the people who had EVPs or other promotions and stuff like that, they've done bad things, and it's not a wonderful thing to hear that a wrestler, one of your top guys, having to find a way to get to the venue and to also make it safe. But he said it was an adventure. To some people it wouldn't be an adventure. To a lot of people, when you do that kind of thing, it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? So, like I said, he talked about like a little bit of that. He did say that like basically it's like a clown show, like Tony is like a clown, and basically it's just He met a lot of people there. He said that you wouldn't believe it, but he said it was more positives than negatives there. Like meeting a lot of awesome wrestlers, a lot of awesome guys wrestling with Sting and stuff like that. Uh, he tried to help. I truly do think that he did try to help the company, and I think that Tony didn't want the company to be helped. I think Tony just wants to run a company. He doesn't care about making the money and stuff like that. And then Ariel did ask him, he was like, "Do you think that the company would be out of business?" He said he will never go out of business as long as Tony funds it. His dad's a millionaire. Tony got some money. Tony has some things, adventures that he do, and I truly believe that. You get what I'm saying? It could. I think they should downsize a little bit on when it comes to these arenas, but it is what it is. So that's what I got from like some of it. Like I said, I'm not gonna say all of it. He talked about his wife for a little bit. He talked about, you know, his he talked about like the future. He talked about UFC and things like that. He did talk about like a lot of stuff. I do recommend you look at it, but basically that was like the gist of the bigger things that people are going to talk about now. My question is, did he bury AEW? No, I think AEW has already been in hot water when it comes to certain situations, and I do think that a lot of people will probably look at it like, oh man, this makes AEW in a bad light. I'm like, I'm sorry, that light has been on for a long time, and I'm not going to sit there and say WWE is very is 100% perfect with everything they're doing, but they're making a lot of money. They're breaking records. They're selling merch. They're doing a whole bunch of things right now. And you look at AEW, and it's just like they're kind of floundering a little bit because they need to have a solid foundation. One of the more interesting things they have going on is the stuff with Swerve Strickland and Samoa Joe for the most part. You know, hopefully they don't mess that up because that's something that could bring in a lot of money. But CM Punk was right. It was like they was getting millions of views when he was on TV, and nobody else is doing that. So that does say something, especially because a lot of people who are AEW fans, they deem to say that ratings aren't everything. But when Dynamite was beating NXT in ratings, that was a good point to bring up, especially on their part. Like I said, I don't want AEW to close because a lot of people make money. A lot of people can't go to WWE because either they don't want them or they don't like the certain style that is required of them. So I do think that AEW is a good alternative, if you will. But they gotta do better. They gotta grow. When you had a guy come out of retirement who basically kind of despised the other company, and like I said, he was on speaking terms with them before that, but still this guy decided to take a chance on your company. I'm not sitting here saying that he's a saint. I'm not. Yeah, guys know he's not a saint, but still, he was there to help. And a lot of people be like, "Oh, well, he's a traitor because he's in WWE." And he talked about WWE and all of this stuff, and now he's talking about AEW. Listen, let me tell you this: some of us have jobs that we work at that we don't like, but we're gonna do our best to keep it. We're gonna say good things about it. I'm genuine about mine. I don't mind my job. My job is decent. Some people is gonna do that kind of stuff, and even then, even if he didn't like what was going on, he could still want the best. Sometimes people do their best at the worst jobs because they want to keep it. They want to have a certain quota. They want people to feel better about the situation. So I'm not gonna sit here and say, okay, well, you're a traitor because you're somewhere else talking about the company. You went back to a company a lot of people said you wasn't gonna come back to, and even you kind of said it a little bit. And he grew up. He said he changed, but still, sometimes we stay at spots we don't want to be in, but we do try to elevate and we do try our best to help the company and stuff like that. He obviously wanted to help AEW for the most part. Did he put himself in the central part? A little bit, but that's more on Tony than Phil. You can't blame that just on Phil, man. You can't. You can't blame Phil for the Colt Cabana thing. You can blame Phil for the money that was coming in for people wanting to see CM Punk wrestle. He had injuries and he got old. He admitted that, and sometimes it's aggravating, the injuries, but he always came back stronger. He says he loves his hair being gray, something that Vince would say that he couldn't do. Like, he spoke about Vince a little bit. Like I said, watch the interview, but he didn't technically bury AEW. AEW's issues have been very public. So I know a lot of people are gonna be like, he burned them. He said stuff. I'm like, I've said that Tony Khan wasn't that good of a boss myself. So that's how I feel about the situation. If you guys looked at it, tell me what you think, or just tell me what you think about this video. I hope you guys having a wonderful Monday. This is Chris Classic. Let's take it home.